10 minutes, all right? Another accounting basic concept is understanding how the GST works in Australia, all right? Now, it was introduced in July 2000 by the Liberal government at the time and the Democrats, and as we know, they just do deals, and however that side of the world works, but the government introduced a consumption tax called goods and services tax. So as I said in the previous example, Sam earns the wage of $1,000. He pays, say, $200 tax, gets his $800 take-home pay. When he goes to spend his money and buy things, you pay a consumption tax called GST. When they introduced the GST to get it through Parliament, they had to do deals with minor political parties, so they excluded some things and included some items from the GST. All right? Now, the GST is, as we all should know, 10%, okay? Who pays the GST? As you'll see, the final consumer. When you go and buy that T-shirt or whatever it is you're going to buy, when you pay the tax, you're the one paying the GST. Businesses, if they pay GST in the course of doing their business, they can claim it back. All right? So let's have a look at how this is how I understand the GST working. After the course today, I decide to call into Myers and we buy a T-shirt for $55. Okay? So we're Myers and we're a business in Australia. We have to be registered for the GST. Our sales today were $55 Inc. GST. But when you look at their profit and loss, you'll only see $50 shown as income because we don't count the tax as income. We're just collecting tax, which is even strange to get your head around. So a P&L will show 50, but their bank account will show 55. The Myers, usually at the end of the month or quarter, depends on their turnover, they have to remit the tax collected. So who's the latest? Malcolm Turnbull. Myers have collected $5 in tax. At the end of the month, they'll send that to Malcolm Turnbull. He'll be happy. Thanks, the government's just got $5 GST collected. All right? Who paid the tax? We did, the consumer, didn't we? Otherwise, the T-shirt would have been $50. Businesses don't pay the tax. Now, they bought the T-shirt from the wholesaler. T-shirt code. And Myers paid $33. Okay? So, I'll just move this down, sorry, from the T-shirt. So Myers says, hang on, before we give you the money, Australian Tax Office, we had purchases of 33. So, just change that to GST paid. I'll make that transaction. So the transaction was a purchase there of 33, and Myers says, we collected 5 from the customer, but we paid $3 in GST, 33 to T-shirt company. So tax office, we're only sending you net $2 tax. Now, during the same period, of course, the T-shirt company have to do their business activity statements, and they have to tell the ATO what their sales are, and they say, oh, we had sales to Myers of $3. So the tax office gets $3 from T-shirt code, $2 from Myers. How much goes into the government account? $5 in tax. Who paid it? Sam, the consumer. But they say, no, hang on, we bought it from the cotton company for $11, let's say. So hang on, we're not going to send 3, are we? We're going to send $2 if we're T-shirt code because we paid 3. Sorry, we collected 3 and paid 1. So they get $2, but now the cotton company says, oh, we had sales of $11. Let's fix my formula. And all the way, you can keep going forever. The government get their tax, don't they? All right. Now, to get it through Parliament, as I was saying, some things are GST free. So an example is fresh food is GST free. All right. So a loaf of bread, some fruit and vegetables, GST free. And the reasoning behind that, when they put it through Parliament, they said, well, for example, low-income people are unfair because they're paying all this tax, you know. So what we're going to do is exempt the necessities. So imagine we're retired on our pension, getting our generous $300 a week to live on, to pay our rent, food, and all the rest of it, okay? You go down to buy $100 worth of food shopping, which wouldn't get you much food at the IGA. $100, if you had to pay GST, it'd be 110, wouldn't it? And the government would get this $10. So, and you know, you got less pension because you're giving it back. So they said, we'll get it through, yeah, we'll exclude that. But you go down to the cafe and you sit down at the shop there and you order a salad sandwich, it'll be GST on it. All right? And it's quite confusing. So confusing I can't explain it right now. And there's whole legislation and pages on it. All right? But so let's imagine there that we bought a whole frozen Christmas turkey, uncooked, all right? Because maybe there's GST if it's cooked, I don't know. So let's say it's no GST. It's 50. Let's say it's still $55. So therefore, if you're Myers selling frozen turkeys and they're GST free, and let's say there was $3 freight to get it there, for argument's sake, but in actual fact, probably be GST zero the whole way through. There's no GST on it. So that'd all be zero, so the government get no tax. But even if there was inputs for freight or whatever, Myers says, hey, we didn't collect any, but we paid $3 to get the turkey to the shelf, Myers would claim it back. And these other businesses would pay $3. How much tax does the government get if it's GST free? Zero. All right. You go to the chemist and you get some special sunburn cream. You don't have a prescription, you'll probably pay GST. You go to the doctor, they give you a prescription and say, Dan, go and buy this special sunburn cream. You go to the chemist, that same thing, the same product off the shelf will have GST on it because you've got a prescription. All right? So that's how confusing it is. So if you're a pharmacy, it would be you need a complex computer system, wouldn't it, to track what's going on. All right? Okay. What else can I say about the GST? So let's say there's $5 on that turkey, $2. There we go. What about if we import the T-shirts from Indonesia? Okay. A shipping container full of Billabong T-shirts, $10,000. When I order them, so we get our buyer to fly over there and look at the manufacturer and go, yeah, these are beautiful, we'll get a shipping container full. Deliver them down at Freo Wharf for me. The company says, okay, Dan, that'll be 10,000 Australian dollars delivered to the wharf at Freo. I go down there to pick up my sea container full of T-shirts. So I've already transferred the 10,000 Australian to that company overseas. They don't have GST. You know, they're not worried about Australian GST. That's not their problem. They've just sold it, you know, for 10,000 Australian. So they can't do a BAS because they're not even in Australia, are they? They're not registered. They've got nothing to do with Australia. So we're not making them, the government can't make them do business activity statements, all right? So forget that. So I've paid them 10K. I go down to customs and they'll say, sure, Dan, we'll release that shipping container, but show me the paperwork before we let you bring it out with the truck. And on that paperwork, I have to declare to customs and the tax office what that goods cost, including shipping, to get it to Freo. And it says 10,000 Australian dollars. Customs say, well, you've got to pay the federal government 10% GST on those goods. Show us where you've paid 1,000 GST. So, of course, I have to then pay $1,000 to the tax office, and then customs, okay, now we can see you've paid your tax on importing those goods, $1,000, excluding tariffs, if there is any. So I've now customs released the goods.
So what's the difference between a tariff?
So a separate thing, like a tariff, would be on motor vehicles. So if you manufacture them, which won't happen for very much longer, when you bring in, say, a Hyundai, before they'll release it, you've got to pay a percentage tariff. So what they were doing there was introduce those to protect local industry. All right. But I don't believe, for example, on T-shirts, shoes, there's no tariffs. So if you're making shoes here in Australia, a manufacturer, or you want to import those leather shoes from Indonesia or China or somewhere, there's no penalty from bringing it in overseas. There's no tariff. But you still got to both pay GST. So on the Cotton Co, I pay $1,000 GST to get them released from customs. I do my best. I say, I just paid $1,000. I get the 1,000 back, don't I? So that cancels itself out. Can you see that? So it just means that if you're importing goods, customs won't release it unless it's you pay the GST that you would have paid had you bought them here. Okay, but as a business, you can claim it back. So it's, from a business point of view, who cares? There's one out, one in, zero. If, as a final consumer, I love shopping online, although the US dollar's got a bit bad, so I don't as much as I used to. If I buy stuff on eBay or somewhere, if it's less than $1,000, we bring it into Australia, you don't pay GST on it, okay? So if I buy a little phone case for $4 on eBay, delivered to my home, I don't know how they do it, but they do it for $4, I don't pay GST. If I went and bought some fancy fishing rod or something for $2,000 on eBay and had it from overseas, had it delivered to my door, I'm required to pay $200 GST, the value of those goods, including shipping, to the tax office. If I don't, they'll withhold the goods. But fairly hard for customs, you know, when you're ordering stuff to pick that up, wouldn't it? But if they do, they'll hold your goods and won't release them to you. All right, there you go.